Chapter 19. Kage Decision, Uzumaki in Crossfire. Castle of Iron. Top floor. Kage Summit. Naruto hefted the two swords he was currently holding, deciding it would be better to save his 9-sword style for later. Sasuke did nothing, observing Naruto unlike he had done in the past. Feeling like he would have to start the show, Naruto charged forward and clashed with Sasuke's katana. The swords sparked against one another. Naruto used his double sword combo to overpower Sasuke and push the weapon away, giving Naruto the chance to kick him towards the ground. He chased after him, going through a quick succession of hand signs for his jutsu. Lava release, melting apparition. Naruto shot a stream of lava out of his mouth towards Sasuke, who had just landed on the ground, his Sharingan tracking Naruto's movement. Activating Susanoo, he took the entirety of the lava to his body and dared Naruto to launch an attack at him. To his surprise, he could no longer see Naruto. Looking left and right, he was rewarded by 3 yellow flashes to his sides and front. To his horror, Sasuke saw that his rival had created not only 3 Rasengans, but they were nature-infused. Firestorm Rasengan. Naruto plunged all 3 of the red, swirling spheres of fire into Sasuke's ultimate defense. The blast pushed him through a wall into an adjacent hallway. Mei realized what he wanted her to do and quickly launched multiple waves of lava bullets at the broken wall. The lava quickly cooled and formed a barrier. Naruto ran through the doorway into the hall, where Sasuke was still recovering from the attack. The Uzumaki quickly blocked all the doors with his own lava attack, effectively closing them inside with one another. Shadow Clone. Naruto created 2 copies of himself, each standing to the right or left of him. Sasuke watched with bated breath. Naruto made the horse hand sign, as did his clones. He felt the acidic mist come up from his throat and spread amongst the room. With his clones, the amount of mist and the potential level of acidity would drastically increase, bringing the battle to a close much quicker. Boil release. Skilled mist. Sasuke was confused as to what the jutsu actually did until he saw the chakra mist with his Sharingan. Looking towards his Susanoo ribs, he saw them melting, something that should be impossible. Attempting to increase his chakra levels to enhance the Susanoo, Sasuke was met with incredible pain that came from all over his body. The toll on my body is astounding. I'm not sure how much more I can take. Was this how it always felt for those who were able to use it? Naruto smirked. The battle was as good as won now. Sasuke could not disperse the mist and Naruto wasn't about to let him leave. It's melting. You bastard. Sasuke coughed up some blood. The fight with the Raikage was too much. Looks like the Raikage and Gaara really got you, huh? I guess you won't be so much of a challenge after all. Sasuke growled. He would not take these taunts from this Uzumaki. Sasuke once again tried to increase his chakra levels, however, his reserves had already been drained from the last time he used a full Susanoo. Naruto continued to just watch his old rival melt when he felt something on him start to grow. He looked down and saw Zetsu growing on him. The guy was smirking like a madman and Naruto could feel his chakras draining. You like to drain chakra, huh? Let's see you drain this. Naruto began to pump Kyuubi's chakra into him. The man's smirk died and was replaced with an agonized look of pain. The leech fell to the ground and twitched like a fish on land for a few moments before dying from chakra poison. On the outside of the wall, chaos ensued as the ninja fought off Zetsu clones. Do you hear those screams, Naruto? Your friends are dying out there, you can't help them, while you are stuck in here with me. Sasuke tried to get into Naruto's head to let him escape from the trap. Naruto merely shook his head. The mind games wouldn't work on him. They were only surprised. I'm sure your friend's clones are being killed as we speak. Don't worry, Sasuke, I'm not leaving until you are a pile of mush. Angered by the blonde's stubbornness, Sasuke charged forward with his katana, intent on killing him. Naruto launched himself forward and met Sasuke in the middle of the hallway. His swords once again smacked against his. The sparks flew from the force of impact. Sasuke's Sharingan allowed him to pick up on Naruto's movements, estimate where he would be, and counter with stunning accuracy. Realizing he had to increase his speed or do something as he was losing the sword fight, Naruto threw 5 swords into the air and caught them. This allowed him to now wield 7 swords. Sasuke was intrigued by this. He had not been expecting Naruto to actually use any more than 2 swords. You can't really use that many swords, you imbecile. Naruto smirked. He didn't know just how wrong he was. We'll see about that. Naruto said, slightly muffled with the sword in between his teeth. He launched himself into the air and met Sasuke for a second time. Naruto was the one on the offensive soon enough, and Sasuke was struggling to keep up with the multiple swords that were launched at him. He could akin Naruto's style to a buzzsaw, the blades were always spinning, and no matter where he flanked there was always a sword to protect the blonde. Suddenly, Naruto threw the two swords he was holding with his hands up into the air and went through a quick succession of hand signs. I have got to speed this up, he is taking too long to die. Fire release, combustion ash cloud. Sasuke observed the thick smog as it raced towards him. He knew that he would be done for if he was caught in the blaze. Thinking quickly, the black-haired boy gathered up his chakra into his sword and quickly cut a hole through the stone. This allowed him to escape right when Naruto clicked his teeth to activate the explosion, sending rubble and flames into the meeting room. Naruto waited for the smoke to clear before realizing that Sasuke had escaped and that the acidic mist was leaking out of the room. Looks like I'll have to tone it down a bit. He ran outside to find everyone still present, but Sasuke was nowhere to be found. Sensing an incoming presence to his right, Naruto turned in time to duck under a strike that his opponent had been waiting for. Building up chakra in his mouth, Naruto launched a few lava bullets towards Sasuke, who was forced to dodge the projectiles. The attack was accentuated when Mei got up from her chair and broke into a run towards Sasuke, launching her own salvo of lava bullets towards him. Sasuke turned his attention to the newcomer and glared at her with the Sharingan. She returned the gesture with a smirk. "Don't interfere, woman." Mei grew a tick on her forehead and began to smile wide, a smile that Naruto knew to be anything but friendly. "Oh. So you think you can order me around because I'm a woman, huh?" Sasuke was taken aback by her joyous tone but smirked anyway. Of course, Uchiha women always knew their place. "I don't know what kind backwards clan you come from, but..." Sasuke was stopped from talking when a well-placed fist sent him flying into the back wall. It cracked from the pressure. Sasuke looked up to find a pissed red head. Mei was shaking with anger over the boy's insult of the Uzumaki. "Naruto." The teen in question quickly moved to her side, feeling even stronger now that he was fighting alongside Mei. "I think it's time we try a combination attack, are you ready?" Naruto looked at her in surprise but nodded anyway. He wanted to know what attack they were going to do though. "All you have to do is summon and then follow my lead." Naruto smirked, biting his finger and preparing the correct hand signs. Sasuke watched and prepared to lunge at them when a Zetsu came up and wrapped himself around Sasuke. He could feel himself becoming stronger with chakra. Zetsu must have been able to absorb chakra from the Kage and their bodyguards while Naruto and I were in the hallway. It feels so empowering. Naruto and Mei noticed that Sasuke seemed to be growing stronger and the Susanoo was coming back in full force. "Now Naruto." He quickly slammed his hand on the ground and from the puff of smoke came a large, two-tailed lava monkey with steel armor and piercing green eyes. "Uzumaki-sama, I have come as requested. Use your lava with us, we must do it simultaneously." Nodding his assent, the lava monkey began to form hand signs along with Mei and Naruto. Lava release, molten flood. The Uzumaki launched a massive amount of boiling lava from their mouths along with the summon. The spray of intense heat immediately melted anything it touched. The other Kage were amazed at such a powerful bloodline. Inoki merely huffed. "Show-offs." Kankuro and Temari watched on in amazement. "Wow. I didn't know Naruto could do that." Sasuke brought his hands up in an X to defend himself but was ultimately engulfed in the lava. His Susanoo broke and it looked like he had been caught by the blast. An agonizing scream echoed the room that belonged to Sasuke. Mei and Naruto smirked and complimented the other's move with a high five. They had gotten the snobby Uchiha with their attack. Naruto turned to his summon who was beating his chest in triumph. The two tails swished behind him excitedly. "Very nice job. May I ask your name?" The monkey turned his head towards the ground to look at Naruto. The monkey was easily 10 feet tall and towered over everyone in the room. "My name is Yabro, it was a pleasure fighting alongside you, Uzumaki-sama." The monkey bowed before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruto and Mei were about to return to their seats when a resounding clapping could be heard throughout the meeting room. Everyone looked to find the source of the applause and landed on a masked man sitting on the bodyguard balcony area. To their disappointment, Sasuke was unconscious and laying face down next to him. Naruto looked his new opponent up and down, surmising that the man in front of him was none other than Madara himself. At this point, Angara had arrived with their bodyguards and a throng of samurai behind them. "Bravo, Uzumaki-san, that was a wonderful performance. Your Kekkei Genkai is quite a powerful one at that, it could easily be equal to the Sharingan in strength." Now that the colorful introductions are over, I will formally introduce myself to you all. My name is Madara Uchiha. As seemed to snap at sound of this, his glare intensified towards the relaxed leader of Akatsuki. Why are you here? Have you come here for the Jinchuriki? Madara merely shook his head to the question. No, I will capture them all in due time. I have come before you today to tell you of my goal for the world, the Moon's Eye plan. Now, Madara was interrupted when an irate A charged through the air and launched a fist at his face. Sighing, Madara allowed the man to phase through him and instead hit the wall. What the hell? They heard A say from behind the broken wall. Madara chuckled at his surprise. Naruto's eyes widened as he observed the move. Did the Raikage pass through him? How did he do that? That is Madara's ability? Kankuro questioned, never seeing anything like it before. Temari seemed to have a bit better of an idea. Looks like a time-space jutsu, I wonder where he got it though. That was quite an outburst, Raikage, please calm down. I have no intention of harming you or any of the others gathered here. Well, at least not yet. He said the final part with an evil cackle in his voice, obviously intending it for Naruto and Gaara. Madara slowly stood up and brushed his cloak of any dirt that had fallen on it thanks to the destruction of the wall behind him. He picked up Sasuke by the scruff of his neck and used his time warp jutsu to send him to a safe place for now. He quickly returned to his place near the other Kage and glared at the masked man. I for one have no intention of listening to you, all Akatsuki are mad with power and must be stopped. Madara pondered this for a second and then shrugged. That's fine, now why don't you leave while I speak to the others? He grew a vein on his forehead and looked ready to attack the man again before Darui calmed him down. Come on sir, let him speak for now. We have no information on this guy, the best we can do now is observe. I looked at him and said nothing, merely looking at the ground in defeat. I suppose you are ready now? Then, may I present to you ladies and gentlemen. Madara was once again interrupted by Gaara, however he spoke a genuine question to the leader of Akatsuki. What do you want with Sasuke? Why have you persuaded him to join your side? Is it because you are trying to bring the Uchiha back to their former glory? Madara looked at him before chuckling a bit at the absurd idea. Bring the Uchiha back? Why would I want to do that? My own people betrayed me and refused to listen to my words of reason, if you ask me. Madara's revealed eyes slid in anger and his voice turned cold. They got what they deserved from Itachi. Everyone's eyes widened. He agreed with the slaughter of the Uchiha? Wow, cold man. Akatsuki muttered, it was a little evil to think that way of your own people. Tell me about it, dude. Madara responded in a sarcastic tone, bringing Akatsuki to look back up in surprise at the man who merely smiled under his mask. He enjoyed to mess with the shinobi before him. But anyway, Sasuke's ability to use Susanoo means that he is a very rare commodity. You couldn't find Uchiha able to harness it very commonly even back when the villages didn't exist, let alone today. Who would allow such prized eyes to go to waste? I brought my apprentice here with me so that he could train the eyes and further awaken his powers, and I can see he did just that. Naruto cringed, he wished he killed Sasuke when he had the chance now more than ever. I was actually hoping I could take all 5 Kage as hostages. But I see that he wasn't powerful enough to do that. Oh well. He was able to make the Raikage lose a hand, so it wasn't so bad. The Kage in question ground his teeth together in an effort to stay quiet but was quickly losing the battle. Madara held up his hand in defense towards the Kage's death glare. I was just kidding, I'm sure you can find another one somewhere. Now anyway, he was interrupted again for what seemed like the 1000th time by a frustrated A. Gah! You bastard! Once again, Madara allowed the fast man to phase right through him, making a second hole in the wall behind Madara. The masked man hiked a thumb over his shoulder and asked the Kumo bodyguards a question that was a bit embarrassing. Is he always like this? How do you get anything done? Darui chuckled and scratched the back of his neck. Yeah. The boss is a little excitable sometimes, that's all. C smacked a larger man in the back of the neck, quieting him. Shut up, Darui, he is the enemy, remember? Darui just shrugged, what he spoke was the truth. Why would you want as hostages? Mei blurted out to the distracted man, it brought his attention over to her. Just to make sure that no one strong enough to interfere would be gone during the Moon Eye operation. And I must say. His tone took a more flirty tone, making Mei sick to her stomach. You are quite beautiful, Mizukage-sama. He allowed her honorary suffix to roll of his tongue, bringing a disgusted look onto her face. I'm engaged, thank you. She moved a bit closer to Naruto, who wrapped a protective arm around her. Madara's eyes swirled in bemusement. Oh, what a shame. You will become a widow early. That was it. Mei launched a lava bullet right at the man's face, which harmlessly passed through him without any reaction from him. He watched as the blonde Jinchuriki reeled his fiancée back in. She was fighting against him and glaring at Madara with bloody murder. It was obvious she wanted to kill him after that remark. Let me go, Naruto. I'll kill him. Madara chuckled a bit. This was too much fun. Calm down, Mayheim. He isn't going anywhere. Naruto grunted out, trying to restrain his admittedly very powerful wife-to-be. With all due respect to you, why have come here to announce this to us? I remember hearing of your exploits throughout my child and shinobi years. With that kind of power, couldn't you do whatever you want? Inoki asked truthfully. The man was a legend among shinobi in terms of strength and charisma, and also betrayal. Madara turned his attention to the old man and shook his head negatively. After my battle with the Slug Princess's grandfather, Hashirama Senju, I am but a mere shadow of my former self. I can no longer wield the power I once had, and it is impossible for me to gain it back, but that is where the genius of my plan comes from. C spoke up next, trying to get a straight answer about this operation of his. So, with this operation of yours you are trying to bring yourself back to that strength? Madara looked at the young boy and shrugged, indicating he didn't think that either way. Well, it is a way to think of it, but that isn't really what it is about at the same time. Mifune was getting angry by how he alluded to the operation so much without actually telling them the details. Enough of this. Quit beating around the bush and tell us what this Munai operation is. Madara shrugged again. If you would allow me, I would like to take a seat for this. He bended his knees and slowly took a seat on the balcony to get more comfortable. We asked what the hell your plan is. Kankuro yelled out, getting tired of the man's evasiveness. Madara shook a finger at the boy and scolded him. My plan is for all to become one with me, to achieve a perfect form. His Sharingan eye curled with glee from his hidden smile, while the others allowed their eyes to widen. What does he mean, become one? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Inoki asked. He didn't understand the man's thought process. There is a stone monument that reads of the past, of the Sharingan, and of the Rikido Sennin. It is a monument that is kept beneath Konoha to this day. Without a Sharingan, it is impossible to read. With Mangekyo, more is legible, and even further with the Rinnegan. What the hell does this have to do with anything? Get to the point. I yelled out, he just wanted the man to get on with it. Madara merely shook his head in disappointment. Haven't you wondered why we hold the Sennin at such a high regard? Why he is considered a legend? Madara made his voice rise with each word, placing his hands into the air for emphasis. You have the Mangekyo and one of your organization members has the Rinnegan. With those abilities, you should have been able to translate it all by now, spill it. Sanada spoke up for the first time. Yes, let's hear what it had to say. Inoki muttered, not too pleased. He saved the world. From a monster. Gaara and Naruto's eyes widened. What kind of monster? Could it be like their tailed beasts? What kind of monster? Gaara spoke up, bringing Madara to look at him. You and your blonde friend Naruto contain a portion of the beast within you right now. All the Biju of the world were combined into one, a monster with the ultimate level of chakra known to us. Everyone listened intently. This monster seemed very powerful. It was called the Juubi. Now it was their turn to become shocked and outraged. That thing was nothing but a myth. Shouldn't the beasts only go up to 9? Akatsuchi muttered, not seeing past what they knew to be fact. Like I said, it was a combination of all 9 into one being. Madara reminded. All of the tailed beasts are made of chakra, pure demonized chakra. They were created by the Rikido Sennin by dividing the chakra of the Juubi. He explained further after seeing some of them still confused. Wait. Does this relate to the reason why Akatsuki is gathering the Biju? Kankuro was getting suspicious. Were they trying to bring the Juubi back? Madara merely continued on with his story, ignoring the comment for now. The Rikido Sennin created a technique to protect the world from the power and destruction the Juubi would surely bring to us. This technique has been handed down and spread throughout the nations of the shinobi world. A secret technique that is no longer needed. The sealing of Biju. The Rikido Sennin was the Juubi's Jinchuriki. The world's first human sacrifice. A few gasps or surprised looks were rewarded to Madara. But the power was too great and too evil for it to be contained forever. Upon his death, the Juubi would be able to reign free and terrorize the world. Knowing this right before his death, the Sennin launched the divided chakra across the planet's surface, which then created the 9 Biju. Its actual body was sent where no one could reach it, the sky. It became the moon we now know of today. It was beginning to sound a little too far-fetched at this point. Is something like this really possible? Can a human accomplish that? Darui asked, not really believing the story. Madara shook his head negatively. No, it is because the Sennin was beyond what we could consider human today. His powers were beyond imagining, something you cannot put a definition or standard to, at least not anymore. So you are gathering the 9 scattered pieces of chakra. That apparently came from an ultra-powerful being that is sealed away in the sky. If this is true, what do you plan to do with that power? Mifune questioned. The final question had been asked. I will create the Juubi again. Then I will seal it within me and gain the abilities being its Jinchuuriki has to offer. Using its ultimate chakra, I will use a jutsu thought unattainable, an extension of an existing Sharingan power. The ultimate Tsukiyomi. With its power, I will cast a genjutsu over the entire world and have the people bow to me. The one they cast aside as mad, the one they cast aside as evil, I will bring them to their knees. They were taken aback, the man was mad with power. It will be without conflict, without war. The people will be one with me. This is the moon I plan. It was silent only a moment before A yelled out his objection, shattering a chair with his fist. Never. I won't give the world up to the likes of you. A murmuring spread throughout those gathered, all agreeing with the Raikage. Peace made through illusion is nothing but that, an illusion. True peace comes from being forged with your own real hands, in reality. Gaara noted, denouncing the man's idea. What do you expect us to find in such a world? It would be devoid of hopes, dreams, family, and love. Who would wish to live in a world like that? Mei attacked him with words instead of fists. Naruto silently agreed along with her. It seems as though you want to unite the world for peace, yet take it all for yourself. Inoki noted. Ha! You all denounce my idea, but do you really think you can do better? Decades of conflict between your villages, and only now do you unite, because of my organization. You are all hopeless. The Kage glared at him for insulting them. Now then. If you would please hand over all your Jinchuuriki remaining, as to cooperate with my operation, it would be much appreciated. Madara held out his hand for Gaara and Naruto to come along, neither made a move to go forward. Mei stood a bit straighter and moved closer to her fiancé, holding him close, afraid that the man would actually attempt to take him. Naruto merely held her tighter as well, reassuring her that he was going nowhere. The Sand siblings formed around Gaara, intent on keeping him away from the man. Madara noticed the lack of support and decided to resort to threatening. If you don't, then the only other choice is war. Their eyes widened. War? We will not hand them over, they are people and you are murdering them for your own selfish gains. Mei announced to the party. We will not hand over either the Kazekage or Naruto Uzumaki, so I suggest you make another offer, Uchiha. Inoki told the masked man, who merely sighed. I may not have all the tailed beasts. But you will find that I have some tricks up my sleeve. Even with a sliver of the Juubi's power on my side, you will lose. Naruto glared at him, deciding now was the time to take the stand. You will not beat us, we can triumph you, if we are united. Madara glanced over towards him and rested his head on his hand. Well, I suppose that means that I have to say this now. I declare the Fourth Shinobi War. Are you serious? Sanada asked, not believing that the man in front of her would be willing to do something so silly as declare the war so great to be the fourth of all the shinobi wars. Believe me, Sanada Haim, I do not jest when I speak words. She merely growled at the nickname as the rest of the Kage processed the information. I believe I will take my leave now. The next time we meet it will be on the battlefield. With that, Madara sent himself through a portal to his hideout to devise a new plan of attack. Those gathered there still stared at the spot Madara had been in, thinking over what had just happened. War had been declared, and a threat, not only Jinchuuriki, but all of the 5 major nations had been made by the leader of Akatsuki, Madara Uchiha. My. What to do now? Inoki muttered to the people gathered, a bit overwhelmed. There is no other way now, we must form an alliance to stand up against Madara. Gaara announced to them all, bringing eyes on him. Remember that Danzo and his Anbu have rebelled and joined Akatsuki. We must incorporate that into the enemy's strength as well. Kakashi noted to the group. I agree, to keep Naruto and my brother safe, we must form an alliance. I agreed with the gathering. The question is though, what to do with the Jinchuuriki? His goal is obviously their capture and the extraction of the beast within. How do we stop him from doing that? Inoki asked. Murmurs went through the crowd as they tried to come up with an idea. Naruto made his presence known with his blunt opinion. I'm sure some of you are thinking this, but I refuse to sit on the sidelines during this war just because I hold the Kyuubi inside of me. I can fight, that much is obvious, and I have killed Akatsuki before, so I refuse to hide like a rat until the war is done. Mei decided to stand by her fiancé on this one. She trusted in his ability. I agree with Naruto, he is easily the most powerful shinobi in my village next to me. It would be foolish to hide him away, we can use him and the other Jinchuriki who are capable in the war. A turn towards Gaara, who had been silently thinking until now. Kazekage? You are also a current host, what is your stance? Gaara looked at A and closed his eyes, relaying his verdict. I stand beside Naruto, we will support the war just as our shinobi will do. It wouldn't be right for my people to have to sacrifice their lives to protect me when I am supposed to do the same for them instead. Kankuro and Tamari smirked, that was their Gaara. My brother will not listen to me when it comes to strategy, so he is out of the question as a fighter. I can think of a way to subdue him though, a simple vacation to our secure islands will suffice, I think. A thought out loud, his brother was quite rebellious. Then we will just have to secure a select number of Jinchuriki for now, make sure they are safe. Then we can formally start making battle plans, correct? Naruto asked. All there agreed with that. Yes, there are still a few Biju unaccounted for that must be secured for the good of the world. I will find my brother and get Yugito somewhere safe, she might be a bit difficult however. Mei stepped up next with Kiri's responsibility. We have 2 unaccounted for tailed beasts. Utakata of the 6 tails, he is a wanted criminal that my Anbu have been tracking for some time, he will be the easiest to apprehend. Then there comes the 3 tails, apparently it survived the death of its Jinchuriki and is still alive somewhere. We have no information on where it is at the moment. As soon as we arrive back in our village, I will begin to send out search teams for it and send my best shinobi to apprehend Utakata. The other Kage nodded to this, agreeing with her course of action. That does it for the Jinchuriki, I suppose. What now? Anything else to say before we part ways? Inoki asked the group, his back ached and he wanted to go home. We must decide on a leader for the alliance. Mifune reminded, bringing everyone back to the argument of who would lead the unstoppable coalition. You were pointing out all our flaws a minute ago, why change your mind about us now? Mifune stroked his beard, attempting to find the right choice. I believe that the Raikage would be the best option. The ability to have the 8 tails on our side is important, and if he is the only one who could control him, then it would be a moot point to pick anyone else. His village has also shown enough loyalty, or at least chivalry, in not joining Akatsuki or bolstering their ranks with their missing nin. I thought you said he was too emotional? Inoki countered, angry that he changed sides so easily. In times of stress, which these were, the Raikage acted with much emotion. It is obvious that this is not always his behavior though, forgive me for my first analysis. Inoki merely huffed in defeat and bowed to those gathered. I will do my best to lead you all to victory over Akatsuki, now we must hurry to our tasks. Upon their completion or any new information is gained on Akatsuki, we will schedule a new meeting between us. I looked into each one of their eyes to show his level of seriousness. A meeting to discuss war. The Kage gave their final salutations and goodbyes, embarking once again for their countries of origin to rally their villages behind them. Amagakure. Meeting place. Madara appeared with a beaten and burned Sasuke over his shoulder before he dropped him onto the cold floor. A loud crack came from the boy's body as it hit the hard ground. Madara looked up to see Danzo and Zetsu both sitting in seats waiting for him to tell them what happened. How did it go, Madara? Danzo asked with a curious tone. Madara walked over to the table and sat in his chair. It went all right, we are now at war. It was as I expected, the Kage are fools to think they can actually stand against me, yet they try anyway. The now united Zetsu spoke up. It is as you expected, my lord, but what will we do for troops? Madara pondered this, looking out a nearby window and watched the rain pelt the glass. I think I will visit my old home, see if they missed me. A hidden smile curled upon his face, his Sharingan twirled in excitement. Konan had listened to the meeting and quickly flew back to report what she had heard. Moving swiftly with her paper transformation, Konan arrived at Pain's hideaway. While still members of Akatsuki, both had been left out of many of the major developments so far, and it was bringing Nagato much grief. Pain. I have returned. The ringed purple-eyed man turned towards her his face covered in an assortment of piercings. "What have you found, Conan?" She sighed. It was as they feared. Madara has declared war on the Kage at the summit and is out to get the rest of the Jinchuriki. He still works alongside Danzo. I'm afraid that it wasn't a rumor as much as we both wished to believe. Pain looked at the ground, his emotionless mask was about ready to fall at just a thought of the man who had killed Yahiko. Then I suppose it is time we acted. Pain turned to face his longtime friend since childhood. Conan. Find the one called Naruto Uzumaki, I wish to speak with him. Kirigakure. Village Gate. A few days after the summit. Naruto and company walked slowly up to their village gate, happy to be back home in their native land instead of the cold and snowy iron. Walking up to the gate, they noticed that there were no gate guards or anyone to welcome their scheduled arrival. They looked at one another, it was strange, and strange meant only one thing in the shinobi world: dangerous. Moving through the streets, they were met with almost no life at all. It was as if half the city had just up and left while they had been away. Arriving at the Mizukage building, they saw none of the usual guards, and it even looked as though the place had come under attack. Smoke and scorch marks lay around the outside, and what could have been dried blood lay untouched on the ground. Going on alert, the three began to move slowly towards the door when Naruto sensed something from behind. A Kiri shinobi was dashing towards them, a blue mask denoting they were an Anbu that was meant to guard the Mizukage. Welcoming the arrival, Naruto saw that the man did not stop. Instead, he pulled out a kunai and threw it at Mei's back. Anger swelled through Naruto, who quickly moved and caught the kunai before throwing it right back at the shinobi, who had not been expecting such quick reflexes and was hit in the chest. By then Mei and Chijuro had turned around to see Naruto having thrown a kunai at a missed shinobi. "Naruto, what are you?" Mei questioned him, but he merely pointed towards the dying man. "He tried to throw a kunai at you. You couldn't expect it because his chakra was so familiar, you expected him to be friendly. This man is a traitor." Mei's eyes widened as she looked at the man who was beginning to take shallow breaths. "Damn right. Kaio-sama was right. About you, Uzumaki. Bunch of pigs." Naruto and Mei's eyes widened. "Kaio." Naruto was upon the man in a second, gripping his shirt tightly as he grilled him for information about what had happened. "What do you mean, Kaio? He is in prison. And why did you attack the Mizukage? You are a traitor if you are attempting to kill her." The man chuckled a bit, although it was hampered by his wound. "Kaio has been freed, he told us all about you and your people with your atrocities and warmongering. Kaio has shown us the truth about you, Uzumaki. That's why. That's why." The man's voice was fading fast. Naruto wanted to know what he was about to say, so he shook him one last time to keep him conscious. "Why, what? Tell me." Naruto took off the mask and found the man coughing up a significant amount of blood. A deadly evil smirk was on his face, though, as he faced his final hour of life. "That's why. We are going to kill all bloodline users. The purges have already begun." The man whispered the final word, his last breath taking the air right out of the three shinobi's lungs. "Purges? No. The people wouldn't do that. They wouldn't." Mei couldn't believe it. Kiri was going back into what she had striven so hard to get away from. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she could find no words. "Damn him. Damn him." Naruto beat the dead body below him, taking his anger out on the madman Kaio with what he had done. He had played a final trick, a revenge card on the Uzumaki, and they were too far away to do anything about it. Mizukage-sama. Naruto. Both turned towards the quiet Chijuro, who was unsure what to say to help them. He was on their side 100% though. He said that the purges were beginning. "That means we may still have some time. I think. Right?" Naruto and Mei's eyes widened. He was right, they could still stop it from happening. "Let's go, we have to find the bloodline users before they kill them," Naruto announced, taking off into a run for the village center. If they were to make an example of someone, they would do it there. Mei and Chijuro followed closely behind. All three had to stop a genocide-driven man, 2 Kage-level shinobi against a whole village. A piece of cake for the two most powerful Uzumaki. End of chapter 19. Chapter 20. Mass Exodus, the noose is broken. Kirigakure. Streets. Naruto ran through the abandoned streets of Kiri with his heart ringing in his ears. The panic of the sheer size of the situation was getting to him. He observed from the city's disheveled look that the bloodline users had been literally dragged from their homes, with a fight often, and taken somewhere. The blonde especially hoped That he was correct, that it was to the city center, because if he was wrong, it could cost them thousands of lives. How could the people do this? I was sure that Mei's reign had proven that the Uzumaki were friends to Kiri, not enemies. What will we do now? Speaking of Mei, Naruto looked over his shoulder to take a quick glance towards his fiancée. She had been taking this especially hard because of the amount of time and effort she had spent on gaining the people of Kiri's trust, only to have it all be thrust back into her face. Naruto turned to see Chijuro keeping pace even with his large sword out. The boy had a look of determination Naruto had not seen since his training with the older boy. Chijuro. The boy looked at Naruto curiously from his outburst. I know you want to help us find the bloodline users, but I have a different mission, it's just as important. The blue-haired boy seemed curious about the new mission and nodded for the boy to go on. What mission, Naruto? Mei listened in as well, curious about the mission and also prouder Naruto was taking charge of the situation. I need you to gather as many loyal shinobi as you can and bring them to the square to support us. We have to know who is on our side, or else we will just be killing each other senselessly. Chijuro pondered it for a moment before he smiled and nodded, jumping onto a roof that veered off to their left. Don't worry Naruto, Mizukage-sama, I'll go get help. Good luck. Good luck Chijuro. Mei called out in support of the boy. Hurry Chijuro. Naruto urged him on as he left their sight. It was nighttime and very dark that night. Do you think he will really find help Naruto? I mean, if it really has gotten this bad, can there really be any loyalists left? Naruto slowed his run so that he was next to Mei and gave her an encouraging smile, one that threatened to spread to her face as well. We must have faith that our friends still believe in us. I think that it really must have been the civilians that were aroused by Kaio's apparent speeches instead of the shinobi. It'll be fine Mayheim, you'll see. Naruto's soft voice reached her ears and reassured her. She grabbed his hand and interlocked their fingers. Promise me. Promise me that we will get out alive with the Uzumaki Naruto. I don't think I can stay here any longer, even if I was welcomed. I want to go home. Naruto's face was one of shock. She really wanted to go back to Yuzu? Mei. Do you really mean that? I mean, you have lived here since the dissolving of Yuzu, are you sure you don't want to fight for Kiri any longer? Mei merely shook her head, a smile gracing her features. I tried so hard to gain the people's trust, to show them that an Uzumaki wasn't always an evil person. It appears now that I have failed, they are just as impressionable as when Madara was still in power. I think it's time we bring our people home, don't you think? Who knows? Maybe I could be calling you Uzukage-sama soon. Naruto's surprise was soon replaced with a warm smile, and he squeezed her hand and kissed her cheek as they continued to run to their destination. I think it's a wonderful idea Mayheim. Now, we just have to hope they will come with us instead of dying here for a place that no longer cares about them. The two picked up their pace to reach the city center to which they were nearing quickly. They were in for a shock by what they saw. Kirigakure. City center. Kaio stood on a raised platform overlooking the large square where there was quite a crowd before him. Ninja loyal to him stood on rooftops or corners of the square, safely hidden in the shadows until they were needed. He had just finished giving yet another rousing speech with the announcement that the final guests had arrived and were heading their way now. The vast majority that stood before him were not the angry and disgruntled citizens he had for support, instead they were mostly bloodline users that were isolated in the center of the square. They were bound with their hands and feet tied, and all were facing Kaio as he prepared to give them their death sentence. They too stood on a raised platform made completely of wood. Citizens with torches stood by to light the extremely flammable straw and wood to burn the bloodline users. Just have to wait a little longer for the final two to arrive. Naruto and Mei Uzumaki. You have underestimated me for the last time. Kaio thought with a triumphant smirk. His plan was foolproof. He was soon rewarded with the two shinobi's arrival at the southern entrance, and he began to clap for their presence. This brought attention to him, and then to the place where he was looking. A silence was brought onto the crowd as they observed Mei and Naruto run into the center of the square to see what had been done. Their eyes widened when they saw the hundreds of bloodline users in neat rows and all tied together. Even the children were present amongst them as they waited to die. Upon their arrival, the vast majority of the bloodline users did not cringe at those who had apparently gotten them into the mess but smiled. Almost all Uzumaki descendants knew the truth behind the Mizukage and her fiancé and knew what Kaio said was not true. Mei and Naruto were there to rescue them. A loud cheer began to arise from the bloodline users. Mizukage-sama. Mizukage-sama. Help us. The people have gone mad, you must do something. One of the great swordsmen have arrived, we are saved. Naruto and Mei felt a rush of confidence as the people cheered their names and focused their attention on the threat that was Kaio. The man had finished his clapping and instead settled for smiling in their direction, something that made both very angry at him for his gall. Mizukage-sama, Naruto, so nice to have you back in the village. I hope the Kage summit was productive. We have made so much progress here as you can see, now if you would, so kindly join your compatriots on the platform, it would be much appreciated. He made fun of them with his sarcastic tone and practically begged for them to defy his order. Kaio. What is the meaning of this? You should be in jail for the grounds of. Mei was interrupted by an annoyed Kaio. He was not going to allow her to badmouth him in front of so many people. I should be in jail for what, because I spoke out against you? Because I pointed out real flaws in your little plan for Uzumaki dominance? No, I should be hailed as a hero. The people of Kiri can see this, why can't you? Mei and Naruto both were shocked at this man's audacity and how much he had clouded the people's judgment. The angry civilians looked to their new Mizukage for support and orders and found him to be looking at them all with a reassuring smile. I know you have all waited so long to rid yourself of the Uzumaki and the bloodline users. He looked into all their shimmering eyes, smiling at how his plan was now coming to a head. You may fulfill that wish now, set fire to those who delude us. Those whose blood only brings pain and suffering. The citizenry all smiled and threw their torches onto the pyre, bringing the flames to come alive within the straw. Naruto and Mei watched in horror as the people on the platform began to squirm for escape and knew they had to do something. Just as they were about to do a water jutsu to put out the fire, the rebel Kiri shinobi leaped down and enacted their final trick. Going through multiple hand signs simultaneously, over a dozen of the masked shinobi slammed their hands into the ground and erected a purple barrier around the Kage-level shinobi. Multiple infinite embrace. Naruto and Mei felt their chakra being absorbed by the strange barrier, their strength being sapped away. Every moment that passed by, more weight of gravity was increased on them, bringing Mei and soon enough Naruto to their knees. Mei couldn't take the excruciating pain for long and let out a loud scream. The shriek brought much terror to the Uzumaki and her fiancé. Mei. Naruto crawled closer to her and held her hand for support, barely fighting against a force pressing against him. He knew he had to do something, and faster, else Mei wouldn't last long with the force being exuded against him. Just as he was thinking of a way out of the predicament, he felt Mei's hand squeeze his own lightly, and he looked down to see her face. She wore a smile that was hampered by the pain that crossed her face. It was a scene Naruto could not bear to see. Naruto. Save them. Save the bloodlines. You must. Hurry. Her raspy voice barely came to his ears. The sheer gravitational weight had effectively made it hard for her to take breaths, and she was losing sight fast. Stay with me, Mei. You have to stay awake. She merely smiled as she slowly closed her eyes and allowed sleep to envelop her, possibly for the last time. Please, Naruto. You are the only one who can do it. The only one that can win. Her last thoughts were of hope for her fiancé before she succumbed to unconsciousness. Naruto looked at her body that was pressed against the ground, her hand no longer had any strength on his, and it fell limp to the ground. His face went from shock and fear to complete and utter hatred for the shinobi before him, all culminating in the man that stood smiling on the platform in front of him. No. You took her away. You took her away from me. My love. My fiancé. I'll kill them. I'll kill them all. Naruto let out a mighty roar as his emotions led to Kyuubi's chakra to rush through him and engulf him in a cloak of 5 tails. No longer did the Kyuubi reign supreme over his emotions as he did in Naruto's youth. It was now Naruto that was willingly calling on the fox's chakra to bring ruin on his enemies. The rebel shinobi passed glances amongst each other fearfully. They were terrified of the transformation that was happening before them. You killed her. I'll kill you all. Naruto let out one last mighty roar before sending a demon-enhanced punch right through the purple wall before him, shattering it in a single attack. The shinobi looked like they were prepared to fight him before he brought up his claws and slashed right through a man's midsection, leading him to fall apart at the waist. Some attempted to run, but were soon crushed by a chakra fist or tail launched from the cloak. None would escape. One attempted to stab him with his kunai only for the weapon to be blocked by the cloak. The man struggled for a moment to attempt to push deeper before Naruto turned to face him and gathered up both chakra and his own blood for an attack. Fearful, the man dropped his kunai and ran only to hear Naruto say the jutsu's name. Tailed beast power, menacing ball. The large ball soon transformed into a beam of white light that enveloped the man and the buildings behind him, engulfing them in an epic explosion that decimated that part of town. The citizens that had been humbly watching their enemies burn were now running in fear of the monster that really had no wish to hurt them at all. Remembering Mei's final request to him, Naruto gathered up chakra and went through a succession of hand signs. Water release, great waterfall. A large amount of water appeared over Naruto's head in the form of a flood and doused the flames on the large square platform. While many would have some sort of burns, the entirety of the bloodline users had been saved by Naruto's quick save. Focusing his attention now on the platform, Naruto now saw with horror that Kaio had taken a hostage. Mei. No. The woman was awake but groggy, still recovering from the loss of such a high amount of chakra. Kaio held her by the waist with a kunai to her throat. He was eyeing Naruto dangerously. Step back or else your precious fiancé dies. Take that damn cloak off too, you bastard Jinchuuriki. Knowing he had little choice, Naruto backed up a few steps and disabled his cloak. With the boy's features now returning to normal, Kaio now had the chance to kill both the problems with one fell swoop. Naruto saw Kaio's muscles tense and moved to his thigh for a three-pronged kunai, hoping he wasn't too late. Kaio began to slide the kunai across the Kage's neck, releasing a large amount of liquid from her body at once. Naruto's eyes quivered for a moment as he watched the true death of his fiancée in front of his eyes, not truly believing what he was witnessing. Then, he noticed something and wanted to smile at her actions. The Mei in front of him was not bleeding blood, but releasing water. What the hell? A water clone? Kaio had apparently noticed too, but not quick enough as Naruto quickly appeared to his right and Mei to his left. Boil release, mist vortex. Naruto and Mei both released a large amount of acidic mist, but moved their hands around to slowly form the almost invisible substance into a raging vortex. Boil release combined with shape manipulation. Impossible. Kaio's eyes widened at their attack. He had never seen an Uzumaki do this before. Kaio was powerless as he was stuck in the middle of the acidic mist maelstrom, unable to do anything but scream in agony as his skin melted away. Naruto and Mei finished the attack by suddenly stopping their jutsu and sending a burned Kaio up into the air before they began their final attack. Naruto held up one hand and began to focus his chakra into a swirling ball. Soon enough a blue Rasengan had formed. He placed the other hand above it and began to feed his lava element into the equation, further enhanced by Mei laying her hand over his and sending chakra through to the growing sphere. The Rasengan quickly transformed from blue to a dark crimson. The chunky jello of lava swished and swirled in the rotation that remained and had a low gravely whine. Naruto launched himself into the air with Mei's help and met Kaio's torso with the attack, yelling out its name with finality to the death of an arch-traitor. Lava release, magma Rasengan. The ball impacted the man's stomach and began to melt his entire body into the swirling mass, leaving nothing behind as Naruto fell back down to earth. He landed with a thump and could barely stand after using so much chakra so quickly. Mei moved to support him. He looked at her with tears practically falling out of his eyes. Mei was concerned as to why he was so worried. Naruto, are you? She was stopped from further talk as Naruto smashed his lips to hers, instantly making Mei forget about their surroundings and place her arms around his neck. Naruto's tongue probed her mouth with hunger. The sight of her so-called death made Naruto wish to cherish the moment for as long as he could. Mei moaned from his ministrations, taken away with pleasure from his spontaneous attack on her taste buds, that she could do nothing but allow him entrance to her mouth. Naruto broke the kiss only to plant more and more light kisses all over her face, leading her to giggle and push him away a bit. Naruto, what has gotten into you? Naruto merely smiled at hearing her playful, flirty voice fill his thoughts again. For a time he had thought he would no longer hear it. I thought you had died. Back in the chakra barrier, I almost lost control because I thought you died. Mei's smile disappeared when she heard this and rubbed his cheek with her hand, a sign of comfort from her. You know that I'm stronger than that, Naruto. I only lost consciousness from the pressure, that was all. Now come on, we still have to save these people. Naruto smiled and nodded. They moved to the pyre and began work on freeing everyone. Multi-shadow clone. Dozens of Naruto clones appeared and began to work on the bloodline users' bonds, quickly freeing the mass of people. Naruto and Mei stood before those gathered. The entirety of the betrayed Kiri civilians stood before them now. The small children huddled to their mothers and fathers in fear of the others. The parents just smiled and told their children everything would be all right. "Don't worry, darling, that's the Mizukage and her bodyguard. They will protect us. The Mizukage is with us, Shiro, don't worry about anything. You see that man there? He is one of the legendary swordsmen of the village, everything will be all right with him here." Naruto and Mei listened in on their whispers of comfort. The children's eyes wandered towards them and shined in wonder. Mei cleared her throat to gain attention from the crowd and allowed her leadership abilities to take over. "I'm glad we could rescue you all in time. My fiancé and I are going to get you all outside of Kiri, and from then on, it will be your choice whether you wish to follow us or not. My other bodyguard has been sent to find more loyal shinobi, we will wait here until they arrive." The Uzumaki looked amongst themselves, curious as to where the two were headed. "Mizukage-sama, where are you headed after we leave Kiri?" She heard someone call out. She smiled and took the Mizukage hat from her waist, where it had been tied. "I am no longer the Mizukage." She dropped her hat on the ground to be left there, eliciting numerous gasps from the crowd. She merely continued to smile as she glanced at Naruto. "We have decided it's time to head home, to raise our children where they belong. Naruto and I are going to live in Uzumaki." If hearing the Mizukage step down from her position was surprising, hearing the resurrection of their old home took the cake. "What? But I thought we were forbidden to resettle Yuzu? Why would we go back to that island? Are you really going to walk away from Kiri, Mei-sama?" Mei smiled as she looked towards Naruto and moved closer towards him, interlocking their fingers as a show of their love. The people's eyes softened, their leader was truly happy being with the man she loved so very much. "I no longer wish to be a leader. I only wish to be a good wife and an even better mom." Mei rubbed her belly lovingly as the people gathered gasped again. Their Mizukage was pregnant. "Wow. I can't believe it. Good for you, Mei-sama." Naruto gripped her by the waist tightly and held her close, allowing Mei to snuggle into his shoulder and bask in the applause they were receiving. Naruto cleared his throat to speak next, and the people quieted down. "Now that you all know our intentions, it is best to decide where you will go now. We don't want you to feel obligated to come with us, because really we don't expect any of the Uzumaki here to wish to reform the clan. I will tell you though that in our absence, our old friends the lava monkeys have been reconstructing Yuzu and waiting for our return. But in the end, whether you wish to stay or go is up to you. Now I think it's about time we." Naruto was interrupted by a loud gush of air coming from behind him and came face to face with dozens of shuriken headed straight for the crowd. Thinking quickly, the two Kage-level Uzumaki combined their Kekkei Genkai into a stronger technique to block the attack. Lava release? Lava wall. The bloodline users watched in amazement as their old Kekkei Genkai was harnessed, something they had nearly given up on using for the past 30 years. As the wall crumpled, Naruto and Mei came face to face with at least a dozen enemy shinobi. Their Kiri headbands with slashes through them showed their true colors, rebels to the current Mizukage. "I think that is enough of your taint of our land, the time for your death is now." One of them shouted as they began to go through hand signs for an attack. Naruto and Mei knew it would be difficult to protect the civilians while they fought. They had to weigh their options carefully on how to proceed. It looked as though the shinobi before them would give them no chance as they charged forward with the intent to kill the bloodline users. Readying themselves for battle, Naruto and Mei relaxed when they heard a familiar voice break through the silence of the tension. "Hiramekare unleashed." The Kiri shinobi stopped their charge when they heard the attack name and turned to face the oncoming jutsu. A large anvil had taken shape around Chijuro's sword and slammed into the enemy shinobi, scrambling them across the battlefield. Numerous other shadows sprouted from the darkness behind Chijuro and moved to finish off the ailing rebels, killing them without remorse as they lay wounded on the ground. "Chijuro!" Naruto and Mei called out, never so glad to see their friend arrive right at the nick of time. The boy scratched his head in embarrassment from all the attention and walked over to the two. "Looks like I made right in time. I think." Naruto smiled and patted the blue-haired boy on the shoulder. He was too bashful for his own good. "We couldn't have done it without you, Chijuro." Mei took notice of the dozens of other Kiri shinobi standing behind Chijuro. She even thought she spied out amongst them. "Are these the loyalists, Chijuro?" The boy nodded and stepped aside for her to view them. She was somewhat disappointed by the number compared to the hundreds of battle-ready shinobi she once had. Ao stepped forward and bowed to her, still not knowing she had renounced her place as their leader. "Mizukage-sama, I tried my best, but it seems Kaio was able to gain the people's favor while you were away." When they decided to strike tonight, they also attacked key military strongpoints against us that remained loyal. The surprise raids cost us dearly, nearly 50% were killed, while another 10% rebelled to their side during the fighting. We are all that is left. Al looked down in shame, he was not able to serve her as well as he had thought. Mei merely smiled and patted the man on the shoulder, raising her voice so that all could hear. It's all right, Ao, you tried your best. I'm proud all of you were able to survive and have decided to stay on my side, but I have news that may disturb you. I am stepping down from my position as Mizukage in favor of leaving with my fiancée to live in Uzumaki. The Kiri shinobi went wide-eyed, their Mizukage was leaving them? No. Why Mizukage-sama? We need you to fight with us so we can win. Mei chuckled and patted her stomach again, bringing attention to it from the shinobi gathered. Now would you still ask me to fight if you knew I was pregnant? With Naruto's child? I merely wish to get married and live life with my husband and children in a place that is safe. Naruto has promised that we will live peacefully in Yuzu and I trust him with my life. I cannot ask you all to come with me, for that would be selfish of myself to think that all of you would wish to join us. I also know that some of you may have family here that turned against me, further reasoning for you to stay. Please know that neither Naruto or I hold anything against you, now I believe it's time we leave this place. Mei and Naruto waved for everyone to follow and began to quickly move through the city and right out the front gate with little resistance. A few shinobi elected to stay behind and set up a resistance movement as the rest decided to head to Uzumaki with the Uzumaki. The bloodline users also decided to join in the mass exodus to Yuzu. They were enthralled by Naruto and Mei's talk of peace and prosperity there and wished to see its beauty for themselves. They all boarded boats and set sail for the isle that was just a few hundred miles across the ocean from Kiri. The journey would only take them a few days. Naruto and Mei stood on the deck of one of the transport ships, reflecting on the long day as they stared up into the full moon. It brought a strange calm over them, leaving their thoughts to wander from the present to the future and what it would bring for them and their clan. They looked at one another with love pouring out of their eyes. The couple shared a kiss under the moon. It was passionate, for they knew that whatever would happen, their love would never change. Kirigakure. Madara and company arrived just as the Uzumaki left the square. The Akatsuki had observed the fights and rescue of all the bloodline users and found it quite amusing to see the exodus of the clans as they turned tail and ran. Madara looked over to the stage where Kaio once stood. Now only ashes remained for the people of Kiri to look at as a leader of the so-called rebellion. Madara then spotted something on the ground that brought a conniving smile to his lips. He walked slowly over to the object and picked it up, dusting off any rock or soot that had gotten onto its regal features. The old Mizukage then placed the Kage hat over his head. A feeling of euphoria enveloped him as he remembered his days as third Mizukage. The feeling of power, respect, and the ability to rule over a village with an iron fist brought him a sense of confidence in his plans and elation to his esteem as he walked towards the ruined Mizukage suite. He hummed a quiet tune as he was followed by his entourage of shinobi, the smile never leaving his masked face. Happy birthday to me. Hello Kirigakure, I'm back. With the power vacuum opened once again with Kaio's death, Madara was ready to take up the throne of the Rakudame Mizukage himself. He would then have his army and his village back. The next step was the world and to kill the meddling Uzumaki before they could become any stronger. Time skip, 3 days later. Yuzu Island. Shores. Naruto and Mei's refugee group settled their boats on the white sand, allowing the natural barrier to be the wooden contraption's anchor. The older Uzumaki looked around forlornly, as if memories of their childhood days living there were now resurfacing. The children reacted in wonderment to the signs of wildlife and the tropical forest. They had never seen such things before. Chijuro came up along with an entourage of Kiri shinobi to Naruto and Mei, who were standing at the tree line of the forest. Naruto-koi, are you sure you can find the way? Naruto nodded. He remembered his way thanks to what Yamara had told him the first time he had visited. Yep, I can lead us there, shouldn't take us too long either. Mei turned to notice Chijuro and smiled at the younger ninja. He did the same to her. Yes, Chijuro? Is everyone alright? We were in a bit of a rush to leave, and many were unable to get all their belongings. The boy merely shook his head. The people had surprisingly not complained as much as they had been expected to. It's not that, Mei-sama, we were just wondering. Are we still a part of the alliance with the other villages? Naruto and Mei looked at each other with doubt. Now that she had been ousted, Kiri technically did not stand within the alliance. No Chijuro, we are no longer a Kiri fighting force, so we are not in the alliance. However, if we decide to start up a village here, namely Uzumaki, then maybe we could reapply for a seat in the joint shinobi force when we are ready." The men shifted uncomfortably, not used to being letterless in an unknown land. "I was just asking because..." Well, everyone wanted to know who was in charge. "We all look to you for guidance, but now that you are not the Mizukage, we wish to know who the leader is." Mei smirked and turned towards Naruto, who had a good idea of what she was thinking. "Well, my husband-to-be here is my leader. I'm not sure if you are willing to follow him or not, but if you give him your support, we may call him the Uzukage. That is, if you are willing to serve Uzumaki as you did Kiri." The men looked amongst themselves in indecision. The choice was a difficult one. While they trusted Mei and Naruto, to let go of their home was a difficult thing. They knew little to nothing about the Uzumaki or the island and did not know how well they would fit in. The conversation had been announced to the people as well, and many of the Uzumaki came up and smiled to the couple. "We are willing to follow Naruto-san if he truly wishes to lead us. His accomplishments have been lauded amongst both Uzumaki and Kiri citizen alike, and his knowledge of this island and our customs is second only to yours, Mizukage." Many of the men gathered here still have access to their bloodline, as do some women. "I'm sure if an Uzumaki was to lead us, they would be willing to enlist in the village again." Everything was going so fast for them, they wanted him to be leader? The Shadai Uzukage? Now wait a minute everyone, I'm not leader material. I have no leadership capability like Mei does, how can I be a leader of a village? Mei smiled, rubbing his cheek with her hand in an attempt to comfort him. "Don't worry Narukoi, you forget that I am willing to help you in your duties until you get a hang of them. The people here trust you with their lives since you saved them. I have trusted you with my life since I first met you. The shinobi here honor and respect you. We stand united beneath your leadership, Naruto. Your influence is greater than you think. We support you all the way, right?" She turned around to see the citizens and shinobi bow to Naruto and Mei, something that shocked them both. The citizens raised their arms in praise and shouted at the tops of their lungs in celebration. The young children clapped and clapped for the two still standing, not really sure what to make of the party going on. "Shadai Uzukage. Naruto Uzumaki. Shadai Uzukage. Hooray for Yuzu. The Uzumaki have returned." Naruto couldn't believe what was going on in front of him, the people. They wanted him to lead. He would be a Kage, not the Hokage like he always thought in his youth, but the Uzukage, something that sounded even better now. But he was still unsure, so he held up his hands for quiet. The people noticed and lowered their shouts to mere whispers. I don't know what to say. Thank you all for your support. I'm still not sure I'm the right choice. But I will do my best if it truly comes to me being the leader of you all." Naruto took a bow in front of them all, shocking them with his modesty and level of respect to the people before him. "Now let's not worry about this for now, we need to go see our new homes." The people cheered as Naruto led them into the jungle. Their worries had been allayed by their new leader with such a simple speech and bow. The future was uncertain for the people of Yuzu, but they had an ambitious goal and the comings of a great leader in the shape of Naruto Uzumaki. He was the true rebirth of the Uzumaki, their leader had returned. End of chapter 20.